There's a lot to like about what's in that wide receiver room. I mean, Dustin, you're at practices, you're there, you get to see it a lot more than we do. We wish we could have seen some of these younger guys earlier in the season, and that just now it's happening, but took a little bit too long because what you saw in that veteran room, it just wasn't doing what you wanted it to do, and you kept on putting out that same personnel. But now, if it's something to do with Dugans, where he's not developing those guys to be ready to go out there and to make plays, to be on their blocks, run the right routes, et cetera, then that's also on Ron Dugans. That's on his fault for that being the case. But I think it's ridiculous why we didn't see such more of a bigger presence of some of these younger players that we think can be a big time playmaking unit for Florida State in the wide receiver room. Just all the good things that we've heard about them, and also to what they did on the high school level, and given some of these defensive backs fits. It's just, that had to happen there, and then you add on the recruiting struggles there from Dugans, and that's what added up for him no longer being in Tallahassee. A great man. One thing about, and we can say it, Dustin, we spent a lot of time with those coaches, and I've had plenty of luncheons before as well. These are some really good men, and they really do open up and allow you to conversate with them. They're the ones always jabbing at you, starting conversations and stuff. So it isn't thing, and I understand Mike Norvell's part where it was rough to do something like this because he has so much experience with these guys, and relationships go so far. And I wish them all personally the best, because they're professional in the way that we were able to work with them, and we get a lot of media access more than a lot of other beats do across the college football landscape. So it's just the product on the field that they were putting out there was not to the factor of Florida State. That there's a different standard. Like Mike's saying, there is a different standard that you have to meet, and they had been given plenty of chances, and it just wasn't there. And it's time to move on.
Yeah, it's never easy to make one of these decisions, especially when you're moving on from, like you said, I mean, guys who are really good dudes off the field. And Mike Norvell said in his press conference, he considers all three of those guys and their families as part of his own family. I mean, it's a really hard day, for Mike Norvell, for the rest of the coaching staff, for the players, the people around the program. That's not something that's done lightly, especially at a place like Florida State, especially when you've committed so much money and, I mean, so much time over the years to all three of those coaches. But like you said, I mean, the production, just that it made it necessary. Florida State's offensive line, they haven't been getting better. They've been getting worse and worse throughout the season, allowing 24 sacks in the last 4 games. It just seems like the message defensively, I know that unit hasn't been as bad as the offense, but they haven't been close to what they were expected to be during the preseason. Third down, whenever Florida State gets into a 3rd and 10, you're like, all right, the other team is probably going to end up converting here. Yep. Making dumb mistakes in coverage, dumb penalties. It just seems like the message defensively wasn't clicking anymore for whatever reason. And then obviously with the wide receivers, you mentioned the recruiting woes there, and that's been consistent dating back to Ron Dugans was working under Willie Taggart in Tallahassee, and then also the drop issues. That's something that's been pretty bad for Florida State over the years, but it's obviously been magnified with all of the struggles in 2024. So, I mean, that'll be the biggest thing. We think that Florida State does have some talent that they can develop in that wide receiver room, and the next coach that gets a shot to do that is going to tell us whether that's true or not.